Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another edition of Against the Odds. So last week we had another all-Ixalan against the odds poll, and in the end, Sunbird's Invocation, far and away the winner, just blew everything else out of the water. So this week, we're heading to Ixalan Standard to play the most value-packed Sunbird's Invocation deck I think that's possible in Ixalan Standard. So we are looking to go super big, super wide, do some super crazy things thanks to the power of Sunbird's Invocation. Speaking of voting for decks, if you want to vote for next week's deck, follow the Read More link in the description of this video. It'll take you to an article over on the Goldfish website. Down at the bottom, you'll find a poll featuring a bunch of options for next week's deck, so keep that in mind if you're interested in voting. Anyway, let's talk Sunbird's Invocation. So first off, we have the namesake card, Sunbird's Invocation itself. So Sunbird's Invocation, a little bit expensive, but incredibly powerful once we untap with it. So 6 mana, whenever we cast a spell, we get to reveal that many cards from the top of our library, equal to the spell's converted mana cost, and then we get to play one of those cards with converted mana cost equal or less than the spell that we cast for free. So basically, how this works is, let's say we cast a 3 mana card. We cast a Rogue Refiner. We get to look at the top 3 cards of our deck and play a card with converted mana cost 3 or less from among those cards. If we cast another Sunbird's Invocation, a 6 mana card, so we look at 6 cards, can cast something with converted mana cost 6 or less. So a lot of value to be generated. The way I look at Sunbird's Invocation is it's kind of like a Panharmonicon, but it works on the stack. So instead of waiting for things to go on the battlefield, it's just a Panharmonicon that whenever we cast a spell, we get another spell as well. It just doubles it up from the battlefield. So how do you go about abusing Sunbird's Invocation? And our main idea is to abuse the timing of Sunbird's Invocation, and our big payoff is Tishana, Voice of Thunder. So Tishana hasn't really seen play yet, but it is potentially very powerful. 7 mana, power and toughness equal to the cards in our hand. When it enters the battlefield, we draw cards equal to the number of creatures we control, so we're potentially drawing a bunch of cards. So the trick here, let's look at an example of this trick. We get down our Sunbird's Invocation on 6. On 7, we cast Tishana. So when we cast Tishana, we're going to get a trigger from Sunbird's Invocation that says, reveal the top 7 cards of your deck, cast something with converted mana cost 7 or less from among them. So we get 7 looks to maybe find like a Regal Coracle. Now the sweet thing about this is, the Coracle, or whatever we find with Sunbird's Invocation, is going to resolve first thanks to how the stack works. So we get the Regal Coracle, which is giving us 3 more creatures at least for our Tishana, Voice of Thunder, so we're drawing a bunch more cards, getting a bunch more value. So that's kind of the idea of the deck, is to abuse the timing and the way the stack works with Sunbird's Invocation to gain more value from the cards that we're casting. The other big trick here is we also have 2 copies of Panharmonicon, and you can see how this works. I mean, it works with a ton of things in our deck, but let's say we cast Regal Coracle for 5 mana. We get to look at 5 cards, hopefully find a Panharmonicon. Panharmonicon will resolve first, so when Regal Coracle enters the battlefield, we have a Panharmonicon. We're getting twice as many cats for our value. Or Tishana, same way. Look at 7 cards, find the Panharmonicon. We're doubling up our draw trigger. So that's kind of the idea of the deck, is to hit things that work well with the cards we're casting off of Sunbird's Invocation to get even more value and double up our value from our Regal Coracles, from our Tishana, Voice of Thunders. So that's basically the idea. We're trying to just go ultra value town with Sunbird's Invocation. However, we do have one super janky trick for winning the game, and that is to use our Sunbird's Invocation to find Tishanas, cast Tishanas with Panharmonicons, with Regal Coracles, to make Tishana as big as possible, draw as many cards as possible, and then to close out the game right away, we simply fling the huge Tishana at our opponent's face with Heart-Peircer Manticore. We can even double it up if we need to with Panharmonicon to sack 2 creatures. If our Heart-Peircer Manticore dies, we can embalm it back from the graveyard. But that's our big combo finish. So if you think about this, we make all these tokens with Regal Coracles, with some of the other cards we'll talk about, which draws us tons of cards, maybe double the amount of cards with Panharmonicon out with our Tishana. And then our Tishana is going to be like 15, 20, 28, 50 power, some massive number. Then we simply Heart-Peircer Manticore, win the game on the spot. We don't got to worry about our opponent having Settle the Wreckage or Fumigate or something else to disrupt our plans. We just close out the game right away with the Heart-Peircer Manticore fling plan. As far as the rest of the deck, things are a bit expensive. We got Tishana's. We got, of course, the namesake Sunbird's Invocation. 6 mana, 7 mana. So Naga Vitalist and Servant of the Conduit just help us ramp into our bigger things a little bit quicker. Get down our Sunbird's Invocation on turn 5 instead of turn 6. Tishana on turn 5 or turn 6 instead of turn 7. Speeds things up a little bit. Then we have a bunch of 3-drops that work really well with both Sunbird's Invocation and Panharmonicon. So one of the tricks, I think, of abusing Sunbird's Invocation, apart from the timing stuff we were talking about, is having creatures we can hit that generate immediate value. So if we cast a Regal Coracle, we can hit a Champion of Wits to loot away some lands, hit a Rogue Refiner to draw some cards. So these cards allow us to impact the battlefield right away. Even if things go wrong, we get Wrath, our opponent has removal, we're still going to get value out of these cards when we hit them off our Sunbird's Invocation, and they're cheap enough that we can do some sweet things, like having a bunch of 3-drops. One of the cool things about Sunbird's Invocation is it's equal or less than as far as the mana restriction, so we can cast a Rogue Refiner and hit another Rogue Refiner, and we're able to cast that. So it's not like Cascade, where it has to be less mana, it hits the same mana cost, and even just doubling up Rogue Refiners or something, or Rogue Refiner into Champion of Wits, that's a lot of value for 3 mana when we have a Sunbird's Invocation out. Then we have a couple of one-ofs. Whirler Virtuoso mostly takes advantage of the fact that we make a ton of energy kind of accidentally in this deck. With Rogue Refiners, with Servants of the Conduit, they're getting doubled up, tripled up sometimes with our Panharmonicons. So occasionally we just have like 20 energy, nothing to do with it. Sooner or later, we'll Sunbird's Invocation into our Whirler Virtuoso, make a bunch of Thopters to get aggressive, to go attacking. Also works really well with Tishana, so we can make a bunch of creatures to have them on the battlefield to draw more cards. Visionary Augmenter just fills out the 4-drop slot, which was kind of like a weak slot in our deck. It does work well with Tishana, making 3 creatures, working well with Sunbird's Invocation being a decent hit, putting a lot of power on the battlefield. But I don't know, kind of like the last card in the deck, I guess. Then we have, rounding out our deck, a single Growing Right of Ixalan, which is incredibly impressive in this deck. So our deck, with the Rogue Refiners, with Sunbird's Invocation, with Tishana, we go through our whole deck most of the time. It's not uncommon. If we can stabilize, we're just literally going to see every card in our deck. So even though Growing Right of Ixalan is only a one-of, sooner or later, we're going to find it off of our Sunbird's Invocation, off of our card draw, and then things get super crazy. It only takes like a Servant of the Conduit and 1 Regal Coracle, and we can flip it around, and then we have enough mana where we're embalming Champion of the Wits, casting Tishanas and Regal Coracles all in the same turn. We have like 20 mana, 25 mana, thanks to the power of Ixalan Cradle of the Sun, the standard legal Gaia's Cradle. For removal, just a couple of Settle the Wreckages as a way to sweep away all of our opponent's attacking creatures. Sometimes giving our opponent lands is a little bit annoying, but coming down on turn 4, getting rid of Hazarets and the Scarab Gods is really important for our deck. One of the problems or challenges for our deck is we just gotta live long enough to cast Sunbird's Invocation, to cast Tishana's. Once we get to that point, we're able to pretty much take over the game with the value they generate, but I think Settle the Wreckage is the best way to take advantage of a very limited number of slots we have for removal, because it does hit everything, even with the downside of giving our opponent lands. And then Struggle to Survive gives us a backup removal spell, also lets us shuffle our deck back into our library, or our graveyard back into our library, which is sometimes a concern. There's actually situations where we're drawing so many cards with our Sunbird's Invocations and Tishana's that we're in danger of just drawing ourselves to death. So this just lets us reset everything, shuffle a bunch of cards back in, have more cards to draw with Rogue Refiners and Tishana's, have more things to hit with Sunbird's Invocation. And then we have Attune with Ether, kind of starts off our mana base, gives us some energy. We are 4 colors, fixes our mana, bunch of dual lands, some basics of each color. In the sideboard, a bunch more removal for specific situations, a Braid for artifact decks like Marduk Vehicles, Ixalan's Binding, kind of gets everything, specifically good against Scarab Gods and Hazarets. Settle the Wreckage, Fumigate gives us a bit more Wrath. Then we have Ether Spear Harvester and Deathgorge Scavenger, mostly for Ramanant Bread, gains us a bit of life. Deathgorge Scavenger can also be good against God Pharaoh's Gift decks. Negates for control matchups, and Angel of Sanctions, just kind of general value, a good thing to kind of cascade into off of our Sunbird's Invocation when we really need a removal spell. And that's Sunbird's Invocation for Standard, and that's our Against the Odds deck for this week. So I don't know how many games we're going to win with this deck, but I know it's going to be amazing, and we are going to have some incredibly powerful turns with Sunbird's Invocation, with Panharmonicons, just crazy value. I'm hopeful that sooner or later we'll get the Tishana Heart-Peircer Heart-Peircer Manticore fling kill off of our Sunbird's Invocation. So, I don't know, I just love decks like this. These are my favorite decks to play. No real defined way of winning. Like, I guess we have the fling kill with Heart-Peircer Manticore, but we're just looking to outvalue our opponent. We're looking to draw more cards than them, play more things than them, make more tokens than them, and hopefully, with the help of Sunbird's Invocation, we'll be able to piece all that value together into some game wins. So, anyway, that's Sunbird's Invocation for Standard. That's our Against the Odds deck for this week. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the gameplay videos, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, help us out by clicking that like button down below. And to keep up on all the latest and greatest, click that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell icon to get alerts whenever we have new videos. And if you want to, check out some of our other sweet videos here and here.